To the Maternal Health Channel. Tonight, we return to the underbelly of Accra's urban jungle. Young girls sleeping rough, working hard, and giving birth on the streets of Accra. God bless the street babies. It's past midnight and the streets are quiet, even though you can still see cars and shadows moving in the dark. A group of young girls are huddled together under the open skies, sleeping. As dawn approaches, the weather turns chilly, but all they have are thin sheets of cloth to keep warm. These streets can be mean, and there are frequent reports of rape and robbery. Aisha gets up. This is no place for deep sleep. Aisha is 4 months pregnant and has made these streets her home ever since she left northern Ghana and traveled several hundred kilometers to Ghana's capital city on the Atlantic coastline. At the local food joint, she cooks corn dough for the owner for a few cents a day. A friend also works here. She is also a teenager with a baby strapped to her back all day. At Accra's main market, the hustling is intense and every coin or note counts. Aisha earns about $3 a day. She feels tired. Her pregnancy is maturing, but can she take it easy? Abibatu also earns something similar. She is 5 months pregnant and has a child. She is as hardworking as Aisha, and it clearly shows. Her patch is the area around the railway tracks that run through the sprawling market.
So man serenganda be yini tra kurme kur kwana ne chi ni sukpa nti tinda be yini mena tra che na free do atanwa tra ko che na free nsi tampa kwana de kwem nu suka so be nyangan chen do atama so do suka nchena ne nya ahli gal bela nya ne nyambi chi bobe ne mbi niema anla be yini kambo borundu akwa.
Lunch for Abibatu is ice kenke, a sweet drink made from corn dough. Like Aisha, she has also never visited a hospital or seen a doctor. She treats any pregnancy-related complications herself, buying tablets from the market vendors or using traditional herbs. Lariba is also a friend and the oldest amongst them. She has 2 children and has been in Accra for 5 years.
Me free me kuomba na me nyimo bia. Nti me chinchia me nya nema na mesi. Me nya banku ana maka. Eno na me di yesa kakra na me nya aduane di. Nti no sa no so me da abonten. Abonten na me da na me mpen so na me ni baby nti na me da abonten no. Ntuntum wie. Ena mema so haye and robbers any rapings. Ni nyina so no ye ni baby a ye be konti ye timusa na me ne me kunu wo north no na ye nyina ye do bayere ebro nkatie e na me nyim me di me first born no nti first one na me nyim ye na me say oho no sika ni ho nde me ba nkran ya ba ye dwuma kakra anya sika to samina ene ntare ade ehwe me ba no.
Lariba specializes in washing clothes for a small fee. She says she learnt the harsh realities from bitter experience. She gave birth on the streets, aided by only her friends. Astonishingly, she delivered her second child herself.
Ba kono me wo no wo fie we na me pese be wo no wo fie na miniskante me forso ya ma anya obia e na meti ho na akwala no me hu se ye me se me ko toilet no e na me fa ntoma e na me mia meto e na me tena me nan nechi nti me tena ho no na me forso ye na me chime ye e na akwala no me ye ne nyina me de ntoma ato m'anim e na akwala no pie ye opia na me gya me to no na me so no mo se na me de ne tontoma no so e na me kɔ me chi kakra e na me san chimiye e na echire de no so e no so beto ofom Isarachi Calvary Rangonya latidini Oh moja tu me na echire de no baaye no moja na amba bie Ma fa edro me nua so hie na me nnome ye yeso me ka chiro bi no o hit nsuo ma me e na me nnome ye e na moja no twaye Isarachi Calvary Rangonya latidini oyare na oyare a menya sika kakra na mato eduro ma na me mfa no nko hospital me to eduro wo drug store e na me de ma no miniska me de ne beko
Soon the sun goes down over Accra's picturesque urban skyline. Like Aisha and Abibatu, Lariba returns to the shopfront at the end of her day.
Good evening and welcome to the discussion section on Maternal Health Channel. Today with us is Lucille Lamte. Lucille, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We'd like to know, why did you get involved with the kayayei?
I got involved with the kayayei when I saw a documentary on them a couple of years ago. They were homeless, living on the streets. There were a lot of, they had a lot of babies. Most of them had children between the ages of 1 month to 4 years, and it was during the rainy season, and it was very appalling. They were just covered in plastic sheets, and I think it was filmed maybe around 9 o'clock in the evening. So at that time, my son was like 2 years old. I was still buying a lot of Pampers, various baby diapers for him, and I was wondering how these kayayei would be able to afford them and keep their children, clothed and cared for at that age. So I decided to start something, for them, and for the children mainly, so that at least they would have some clothing and sufficient diapers. It's deplorable. They live in front of stores, and they sleep there. Maybe they leave from about 5:30 in the morning, and they get back around 8, and then because most of the shops are closed then, so that's when the store owners allow them to sleep there. And it's a store, so there's no bedding or anything. They just have their cloths, and maybe there was one lady, she had twins, and when I went to see her, she just had her lapa on. You could see she was so tired because she didn't have her top on. One child was here, the other twin was here, and she's just laying down like she's dead, you know. They live in very, very deplorable conditions. They have nowhere to bath. If you go to Dakuman any Sunday, you'll see them there if you go early, like between 8 and 9. And, this is the road, and they're bathing their children right on the street. They'll have a little pail
So
with the child in.
did they have any form of arrangement with the owners of the stores? Where did they rent? Is it for free? What kind of treatment did they usually
I don't
receive?
know if they're paying them, but I know that, it's not like they treat them nicely, I mean, it's like, make sure you get out at a certain time, we don't want to really, they don't really want to see people around, so it's very disheartening, to see that.
And we've also been hearing a number of stories here and there about, these kayayei girls being raped or even sometimes being attacked by armed robbers.
Yes,
is that what is really happening?
Yes, they're raped, they're beaten. From what I hear, some people even tried to steal their children.
Wow.
I just heard that recently, The first place I went to was Sodom and Gomorrah, and there was a little nursery there. It's smaller than, you can't call it a nursery. And there were like 70 children there. You take the children there. There was I think the lady's name was Jamila, and she charges 60 pesos a day.
Per child?
Per child. So they bring the children there, and they pick them up around 5:30. And this is in Sodom and Gomorrah, if you speak Gadang Moto, it's all, it's horrible.
So it means that their kids don't have any form of formal education?
No. And these are like children between the ages of 0 to 5. So they're in the nursery, they're fed once. They're fed, I think she said she's feeds them beans and gari. She said most of the time, even the 60 pesos, some of them are not able to pay. And then, was the time I went there was the rainy season, and some of the children were naked. So I asked her, well, why are these children naked on this cold cement floor? And she said it was because they don't have enough clothing. So the kayayei will bring one dress. If the child soils that dress, she has to find water to wash it and dry it. And so the child has to, be there naked, and you can get pneumonia, all types of rashes,
So how did they access healthcare for their children?
Unfortunately, they don't. So if a child is sick, maybe they go and buy some paracetamol or something. They hardly ever go to the hospital. I do realize that they say some kayayei are registered, but the ones I've been dealing with are not. So when they get sick, they have to try and, just get better.
Do you have any idea how much they make a day?
That really depends on, who is paying them. Because most of them will tell you, you pay me what you want. And if you're not a very nice person, you can give them 20 pesos. Yes. I mean, it depends. A lot of them say they make around 20 cedis a day. And if they're washing, I think when they wash, it's 15 cedis to wash. If they're making banku, it's 15 cedis. Okay. So if you're a kayayei and you want to make more than that, and you're working from 5:30 to 6, you've got to be all over the place, and that in itself is a health risk. It's like it's too much. And then you're carrying a small child on your back. You've got to make sure that child eats, and it's a very difficult life. Most of them come from the north, and they're between the ages of 15 to 22. Wow. However, I have seen 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10, 11, but the majority is like 14 to 22.
And what drives them to come down south? For
better living. They feel that if they're coming to an urban town, they would make more money. They would be in a safer environment, but that isn't the case, unfortunately. Some of them are child brides running away. Some of them just think, oh, well, Accra is a better place, let me try it. But a lot of them, sometimes they're running away, actually. The younger ones, they're running away. The men hardly ever come. They are farmers. But maybe, you have a 15-year-old girl who's, you know, has been promised to a 60-year-old man, so she will run away and try and come down.
I'm actually interested with what you said, that you hardly find the men coming this way, because they are both farmers. Both the men and women are farmers. So how come that is usually the women that, especially young girls?
Because probably maybe the man is much older and maybe the lady is young and she didn't actually want to marry this farmer, so she'll run away. Or maybe they have 4 or 5 wives. She doesn't feel she's, you know, she's being taken care of, so she'll try and come down. Or some, you know, there are a lot of reasons that they come down. And the problem is, you know, they come down trying to achieve, you know, a better lifestyle, and it doesn't happen. And then they stay here and they don't go back.
So how did they feed?
They buy street food because there's nowhere to cook, you know, so they have to buy gari, wache, anything that they can get, you know, for sustenance. So, you know, it's not an apartment building. You know, they're on the streets, so they have to, you know, they'll take a break, get something to eat, try and find something for the child to eat. So you'll find that a lot of the children are undernourished because, you know, maybe they're eating 1 meal a day and it's not, you know, very, it lacks nutrition. So, you know, you won't find them changing their clothes often. They'll have a lot of cover cloths and then a couple of, you know, dresses.
When they're even pregnant, what happens?
Nothing. They don't, you know, they don't go to the doctor. So they have no prenatal care. You know, they don't go like monthly or weekly to the doctor. They don't take vitamins, you know. So by all means, the child will be undernourished and underdeveloped because they didn't have any prenatal care.
And where did they deliver?
Some of them, you know, deliver on the street. They have other kayayei assisting them. No, they don't go to the hospital because they can't afford it. And then a lot of them are not on that national health insurance. I saw one lady who, I think she said she was doing the banco on the gas stove. And, you know, her nose, everything was like cut up, and she just had gentian violet on it, you know. And you see, you can see that because people don't treat them with any respect, sometimes, you know, they cover up by like laughing, but they're really hurting, you know, and they lack trust, because initially when I started going there, they wouldn't really talk to me because they're wondering, well, you know, what are you coming here for? So, and you can't blame them because they're not treated, you know, like human beings really.
So do they really have any form of family planning, and how do they get access to those services? Because you see a lot of them having kids. No,
and you can find like a 15 or 17-year-old with 2 children, you know, at that young age. Most of them, I did one event on like safe sex or abstinence. None of them, only one of them knew what a condom was. You know, they don't have any kind of information on that.
So how do they manage their reproductive life?
They don't. I mean, you know, they don't. Then when you think about it, they're 15 and 14, you know, the youngest, and if they were not taught that by their parents and they haven't been to school, they really wouldn't know, you know, what a condom was. And if let's say they've been married to an older person and they've run away, you know, they really don't have enough information on their reproductive health because they're very young, you know, and they haven't been educated on that. So, you know, I don't think it's that surprising, you know, because who knows how they even started any kind of sexual activity, you know. A lot of them, if you came very early and you were raped, you know, yes, you should be thinking about being careful, but you're a child, you know, you still have a child's mentality, so it's kind of, you know, you have to understand they're just too young to, you know, if you're in school, you know, they will talk to you about your reproductive health, but if you're not in school and you've been on the streets and, you know, your first experience was either rape or getting married to a much older person who is now going to teach you whatever. You wouldn't.
So in a situation where a young girl of that age gets pregnant and thinks that, no, I'm not ready for this pregnancy and I want to get an abortion, what happened? How did they get access to?
I don't even know what to say about that, because I can imagine a situation like that where maybe they would talk to another kayayei, an older kayayei, who maybe doesn't know anything. Maybe they'd try and do some botched up abortion or something, you know, because they're desperate, they have no money, you know, this isn't what they wanted, they were raped. And, you know, it's kind of, it's a scary situation.
Where did you get your source of funding to carry out these activities?
Friends and family and begging. You know.
Wow, that's a lot you're doing.
You know, I mean, you know, we're trying our best. Yeah. So,
how do you want to see these girls develop, looking at the longer term?
I don't think any of them really wants to be a kayayei living on the streets. They do not want to live with anyone else, you know, because they want to feel independent. But I know a lot of them would like another trade. You know, they'd like to learn hairdressing, sewing, something, you know. And I think if they had some type of shelter and some type of, you know, daycare that is sufficient for the children, it would help them, you know. I mean, that would alleviate some of the stress in their life. So in the long term, I think it would be nice if there was some kind of hostel for them to be in for a certain period of time, learn a trade, leave, you know, and let somebody else come. So at least you give them some kind of path.
But you know, you have people arguing that, you know, the way to curb the situation is to ensure that, you know, there are better job opportunities from where they come from, such that you don't even need to.
That would be the most advisable thing, you know. If you're over there and you do have a husband, you know, you wouldn't want to, and it's a husband that you picked, you wouldn't want to leave him and come to Accra. So if there were better jobs in the north, it would really alleviate the situation. So if people are listening and want to do that, you know, they should.
They are married very young, or sometimes they are married to a man who has already like 5 wives, and most of them ran away. So given or looking at it from that angle, what do you think can be done? Because this is more of a culture issue, you know, that exists within the possibly the northern system. So what do you think can be done?
With cultural issues, I mean, it would be very difficult to, you know, change that. You can try, but it would take it's a long process, and it probably would never change. So if kayayei comes to Accra because of that, that's a totally separate issue. Then that kayayei needs to learn a trade and needs to be empowered, you know. And like I said, that's when, you know, like maybe housing or something comes in, or somewhere where she can, you know, even if it's just a counseling center, where, because each one of them has different aspirations and problems. Each of them have gone through certain traumatic situations. There has to be a way to get them off the street, you know. You know, but maternal issues on the street, I mean, you can't even think about that. It's like a lot of different phases, you know. They need, if they were raped, they need counseling. A lot of times, you know, like there aren't rape crisis centers here, there aren't homeless shelters, you know. So it's just, you don't want to like disempower them and make them feel that you're doing this for them, so they shouldn't, you know, think about doing anything for themselves. But you have to like assist them and make them know that, you know, we're trying to help you to move forward. And depending on each individual kayayei's situation, you know, if they're counseled, you'll know how better to assist them.
Do you have any idea what the Department of Social Welfare is also doing in supporting these young ones?
I have no idea. I mean, none of them have told me that social welfare has been there, so I really don't know.
Wow. And what of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection?
I'm sure, I believe they have some plans for a kayayei shelter. I'm not like 100% certain, but you know, we need to get more involved. So I'd like to take this opportunity to like appeal to people. If you know, don't think that they're like less than you because they're living on the streets. You know, they've had situations happen to them. That's why they're here. Please get involved. And I commend the Maternal Health TV for you know, bringing this the plight of the kayayei to, you know, in this forum, because it's very important and more people should be doing that.
Lucille, thank you very much for the fantastic job that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching, and good night.